Space Survival. It's a survival RPG game where you choose one of the various races existing in the vast space, and you survive, explore, and evolve. What caught my attention here was the various races. Ever since I was young, I've been fond of aliens, monsters, and different species. Space Survival was a game that brought my fantasies to life. Sometimes I became a metallic gremlin, tearing apart human ships, and other times, I transformed into a mutant monster, slaughtering enemies on the ground. At times, I even led a hive-minded organization to conquer planets. I've played as all sorts of space creatures that could come out of nightmares, but there was one race that I enjoyed the most: the Unidentified Aggressive Space Morph, or UASM for short. I combined the A from aggressive with morph, and called them Amorphs. Amorphs were space monsters inspired by creatures from the classic film, The Thing, capable of acquiring genetic information from their victims to enhance themselves. They had no limits to how strong they could become, which might make them seem like overpowered beings at first glance. However, due to their incredibly challenging survival difficulty and the inherent risks of their race, they had a notorious reputation. In essence, they got stronger over time, but they were extremely weak in the beginning, making it nearly impossible to accomplish anything. Survival games are all about accumulating resources and skills over time, but Amorphs had a mechanism that went against this flow. Dying repeatedly in the early stages reduced the opportunity to get stronger, and if you couldn't get stronger, you'd keep dying in a vicious cycle. Nevertheless, one could argue that you could overcome this through effort and skill. But Amorphs had a fatal flaw that made it difficult: they couldn't communicate or cooperate with other races. According to the game's lore, Amorphs viewed other races as living prey or genetic material to be collected. So, why did such a trash race become my favorite? The reason is simple: it's because they were a race that could evolve and grow stronger freely based on choice and will. Well, besides that, I also have a liking for aliens. Just as they say, those who enjoy it the most tend to excel at it, and I was one of the hardcore players who achieved the most challenging achievement in the game: Galactic Conqueror as an Amorph. In the community, they even called me the Honorable Amorph, the Xeno Lover, or the Morph Enthusiast. I knew the identity of this small and bizarre creature. The favorite race in space survival, the Amorph. Beings with boundless potential who made me the ruler of the galaxy. As a hatchling. Race: Unidentified Aggressive Space Morph. Status: Hatchling. Objective: Survive. Special trait: Super Sense. In the vast expanse of space, in a universe where all sorts of monsters and transcendent beings were at play, I had possessed the weakest creature of all. I guess it won't help to think about it. I decided to stop feeling discouraged at this point. It's not because I'm more optimistic than others that I take things lightly. Amorph is a combat species with strong vitality, but not during hatchling times. All I have are possibilities and potential. Right now, I'm just a fragile being that will die if I don't eat something within an hour. So I need to move diligently before my remaining energy runs out. Where I am now is inside a massive metal structure. I'm well aware that it's a spaceship made of alloy, swimming in the sea called space. Looks like something out of Megacorp or Star Union. Either way, they are not friendly forces to me. Looking around, I saw a stack of containers about 3 times the height of a person. Plastic boxes were visible between the stacked containers. As my chin-mounted auxiliary apparatus twitched, various pieces of information were implanted in my mind. A fascinating sensation: experiencing the super sense that used to be implemented in the form of a minimap in the game was completely different when felt directly through my body. Smells were heard like sounds, and sounds were seen, mixing the senses together to convey information. It was a sense that allowed me to perceive everything within its range simultaneously. At the tips of my claws, I could feel the vibrations generated by the fusion engine. The faint smells of various elements like oxygen, carbon, and more mixed in the air stimulated my auxiliary apparatus at its tip. The auxiliary apparatus extracted the fact that there was something edible among the various smells, and transmitted it to my brain. My top priority now was nutrition. The fact that food was not far away was reassuring. My 3 pairs of legs moved towards the prey as they stepped on the cold metal plates. Each time my claws touched the grating-style floor, it made a squeaky sound. I passed through the forest of containers and reached the plastic boxes. Using my claws, I climbed up on top of one. Upon reaching the top, I noticed that the box had a lock that required a password to open. It's a password. Let's see. I leaned close to the number plate, and as my auxiliary apparatus twitched, fingerprints on the surface flowed into my mind. 1234, really? Even in the space age, the security level was this low. I pressed the button firmly with my front legs. A sound from inside the box indicated that the lock had been released. When I opened the lid, there were vacuum-sealed calorie bars stacked inside. I pulled out one from the top. With a simple tear using my claws, I took a bite. The texture was like chewing on a rubber eraser, but the game's tooltip had mentioned that it was designed exclusively for nutrition, and it seemed to be true. Well, at least I succeeded in replenishing my nutrition. It didn't taste good, but the high-calorie content made me feel energetic all the way to the tip of my tail. As I was about to take another bite, something caught my senses. My tail moved like an arrow and quickly pierced through the unknown object. A cockroach. The sharp fangs were lodged in the cockroach. It struggled to escape but eventually fell limp. I devoured the cockroach as if possessed. Its exoskeleton broke as it was crushed between my teeth, and its juices sprayed. It was a juicy creature, seemingly well fed and grown. After I finished eating it, a different message appeared in the text box from before. Predation effect activated. Successfully obtained. Wings, genetic essence from cockroach. Extracted the wings from the biological characteristics of cockroach. Do you want to apply the wings? Oh, getting a genetic essence this quickly is quite lucky. Genetic essences can be considered the alpha and omega of morph operations, as it's a crucial element. The more genetic essences you acquire, the stronger you can evolve as a creature. Wings. In a game set in space, wings themselves are unlikely to have any special significance. But this is not a game, it's reality. Considering that I'm a gliding caterpillar, this trait is closer to being useful rather than bad. It allows me to establish dominance when hunting and provides an advantage in escaping. Accept. Trait application in progress. It felt like something was squirming on my back, and wings with the smooth and elastic texture characteristic of kite and grew. Application of wings, trait complete. Good. I decided to test my wings. How should I move them? Unlike legs, wings are not a familiar part of the human body. Still, since they grew on my back, I tried exerting force around the dorsal area, feeling as if I was moving the area around the pectoral muscles. It was the right approach, as the wings flapped slowly. Energy consumption is more severe than I thought. After trying a few times, I quickly understood. Flight consumes a considerable amount of energy. I stopped moving my wings and cracked open the calorie bar. To fully utilize the wings, I need something more. Having acquired wings was a welcome development, but there were other crucial abilities I needed to obtain from the cockroach. These abilities were essential for smooth and comfortable survival. First goal is set, I thought as I chewed on the calorie bar. I needed to become a cockroach killer. In zero gravity, searching for cockroaches. Stuck to the wall, I waited, and a cockroach passed beneath me. My tail became a fishing hook, and I caught it. Gently but forcefully, my tail rose, like a fisherman pulling up a net. The cockroach, hanging at the end, sensed its fate and struggled to escape in any way it could. It doesn't work like that. Sharp fangs pierced the cockroach's head. My small but sharp teeth moved continuously to prepare the tough outer shell and thick flesh for digestion. Only after the remains of the cockroach were reduced to a state resembling juice in a blender could they pass through the throat. In terms of nutrition, the calorie bar was overwhelmingly superior, but in terms of taste, the cockroach was much better. Thanks to it, I could do things I couldn't even imagine in my human days. It's funny to say this, but it tastes like silkworm pupa. Literally, it tastes like a soju snack. This makes it the 20th. Still no results, I guess. Just like my habit from my human days, I clenched my teeth with my front legs and summoned the text box. The text box appeared in front of my head at my will. Race. Unidentified aggressive space morph. Status. Hatchling. Objective. Survive. Special trait. Super sense. Wings. Chitinous exoskeleton. Getting my first set of wings seemed like a beginner's luck. Since then, I had devoured 19 more cockroaches, but I had obtained only one genetic essence. The chitinous exoskeleton isn't bad, but the chitinous exoskeleton was a powerful trait that greatly increased defense as you grew. It became more useful in the later stages, but it was unnecessary in my current situation. Increasing defense slightly in my near-zero defense hatchling state wouldn't make much difference. Other abilities were more critical. I really need to secure the robust vitality trait. Robust vitality was a common trait found in most insectoid or plant-based creatures. Of course, its effects were quite simple. It reduces energy consumption to delay aging. In a game where there was no concept of lifespan, it was a trait that concept-focused players or those who wanted to extend their gameplay focused on. That was a lot of rambling. In short, I have to catch cockroaches diligently if I want to survive. Let's change locations. Cockroaches were sensitive and intelligent insects, so they never ventured into areas where their comrades had died. They knew that danger lurked in places where their fellow cockroaches had met their end. At first, I didn't know this fact and wasted 30 minutes sitting in the same spot, accomplishing nothing. Let's go. I bent my 8 legs to the wall, then suddenly exerted all my strength, propelling myself upwards. My body rebounded elastically and soared into the air. While floating in midair, my wings spread wide from my back. If someone with a weak heart saw this, they might faint. Even while flying, my visual and auxiliary apparatus never stopped searching for cockroaches. At this point, I'm truly an honorable amorph. Lost in frivolous thoughts, I suddenly detected 2 cockroaches. There was one on the wall, and another was diligently crawling on top of a plastic box. I decided to catch the one closer to me, the one on the wall. I adjusted the angle of my wings, and my body turned in the direction of the cockroach. The cockroach seemed to be lost in thought or distracted, completely unaware of my approach. I grabbed it with my front legs, like an eagle snatching a fish. Before the little one could escape between my claws, I swiftly grabbed it and popped it into my mouth. Its seemingly pristine exoskeleton shattered, and juices along with bits of innards spewed out from its side. With one more left, I held it in my mouth, eyeing the next target. Oh no, the one near the floor noticed me. It scurried down beneath a box. With its small body and its legs pointed towards the floor gap, once it slipped through the crevice in the alloy sheet, my hunt would be over. I can't let it escape. I pushed the wall with my 4 pairs of legs to secure thrust and shot towards it like an arrow. The creature was already probing the crevice with its antennae and head. As soon as its lower half was visible, I landed like a missile, smashing into the unforgiving iron that offered no semblance of softness. Pain surged through my entire body due to the impact, but my focus was on the creature's rear end. My tail shot out like a mantis hunting its prey. It sliced through the air, and the tip, equipped with a sharp stinger, entered the hole in the metal sheet. The creature, which had just breathed a sigh of relief, panicked. Its brain, which had considered an immediate escape, was now split in 2 by the sharp sting. Phew. By a hair's breadth, I succeeded in hunting them both. My tail returned triumphantly to its place, bearing the proud spoils of victory. After finishing processing the carcass I had in my mouth, I started eating the creature attached to my tail. Just as I was about to finish devouring it, the long-awaited message appeared. Predation effect activated, successfully obtained. Robust vitality, genetic essence from cockroach. Extracted the robust vitality from the biological characteristics of cockroach. Do you want to apply the robust vitality? Of course, except a qualitatively different vitality coursed through my entire body. Muscles had thickened around the once long and slender legs, and the sheen on the chitinous exoskeleton covering my back and belly had improved. Now, it begins. In comparison to my body, it was an incredibly vast and expansive cargo hold within the ship. The time had come for me to break free from the world where I first set foot. Where should I go next? In fact, I've already decided where to go. Let's go to the cooling room next to the reactor. Even in the space age, the way humans handle heat hasn't changed much from before. Next to the ship's heart, the nuclear fusion engine, there was a cooling room responsible for temperature control. The cooling room is an important facility, so not many people visit it. Well then, shall we go? Before departing, I ate 2 more calorie bars. With my belly filled, I jumped up to the ceiling. Tiny suckers between my claws firmly anchored my body to the ceiling, allowing me to move easily even while hanging upside down. The reason insects can move along walls is thanks to structures called pulvili. While walking upside down on the ceiling, I noticed an entrance leading to an air duct. Its external appearance resembled an enlarged window-type ventilation fan, with iron bars screwed on the outside. On the inside, a giant blade rotated incessantly, emitting a fierce sound as it carried out its work. I raised my claws and turned the screws that secured the bars. If the ship's humans had paid more attention to security, they might have welded this place shut. Fortunately, they were a tribe that liked to use 1234 as their cargo password. The first barrier that blocked the air duct was easily disabled by my claws. The next obstacle was the blade of the ventilation fan on the inside. This is the critical moment. I had two ways to pass through here. One was to time it and avoid the blade while entering, and the other was to bring something and damage the ventilation fan blade. It goes without saying, but the latter method was impossible. Even if I threw an object at the thin fan blade, it was doubtful whether it would be enough to break it. Moreover, even if I succeeded in breaking it, there would be a problem. If there were any issues with the ventilation fan, the super AI controlling the ship would definitely not overlook it. The AI would immediately report any newly occurring errors to humans. In that case, my remaining future would be nothing but tracking and death. I have to go through here. From now on, it was time to rely on Amorph's abilities. I just stood there, waiting, as I couldn't risk entering and having the blade tear me to pieces. While waiting, the auxiliary system began to collect various pieces of information, such as the flow of air, the flow of energy generated at the junction of the blades, and more. It wasn't just the auxiliary system working diligently. A highly developed sense of vision focused on the precise movements of the rotating blades to find weaknesses in the intricate machinery. How much time had passed? The auxiliary system detected traces of iron oxide mixed in the air and fine metal particles carried by the wind. Additionally, it discovered that the junction of the rotating blades slowed down briefly at certain points due to wear and tear. My brain, after reviewing all the information from my eyes and the auxiliary system, was saying, "Jump in right now. It's now or never." I trusted my heightened senses and leapt into the ventilation duct. The merciless machine god struck me with its air pressure as the blade sliced through the air. If I were still human, I might have shouted with joy, but my oral structure was not suited for laughter. All I could produce was a dry, hissing sound. After briefly savoring the moment of survival, I continued my journey. The ventilation duct had a complex, maze-like structure, but it posed no obstacle before my heightened senses. There are spiders here. The spiders and beetles I encountered on my way turned out to be good snacks during the journey. I stood on the grating, looking down. People in white coats were seen moving between large test tubes and incubators. A laboratory. Wasn't this supposed to be a regular spaceship? I had assumed it was a supply or cargo ship because of the amount of food and weapons in the cargo hold, but now, it turned out to be a laboratory. If this ship was indeed a research vessel, it wouldn't be a bad condition for me. Hey, how are the results for experiment subject 026? It's another failure. Tisk, the research officer is going to lose it again. She's an Earthling, after all. The captain can't help but spoil her. Sigh, let's call it a day. After confirming that the two men left the laboratory, I unscrewed the grating and descended below. They look like Megacorp types. Megacorp was a human faction that had thrived around the solar system, a race loosely inspired by Earthlings. According to the lore, they were governed by massive corporations instead of governments, and most of their members were extreme materialists. While most human factions in the space survival game tended to be neutral, Megacorp leaned more towards a villainous alignment, perhaps due to their lore. There's no place other than Megacorp where they'd modify healthy individuals into slaves. Megacorp captured and modified people who were either poor or members of other alien races through a process known as employment. It was one of the unique racial traits of Megacorp, and in the game, players often found themselves actively using it because of the significant advantages it offered. In the game, of course. In real life, why would anyone do such a thing? Conquering the laboratory would only happen after I had killed and consumed a person. Let's see what's here today. My path would greatly change depending on the purpose of this research ship. If it specialized in terrestrial combat mutant soldiers or studied Hulk mutants, I could secure a robust—
No bitches. No bitches. No bitches.